Fire for your mind. Culture, clinician.
I have a genuine problem with therapy as a whole. Therapy is the idea that you need to go through life crying about the bad things that have happened to you, to some other mortal being as if they are God, and that somehow that makes things better. You need to go to some other normal human with their own problems, who's no better than you, and sit there and go, oh, this happened, that happened, and sit there and bitch about it. Therapy is not action. Therapy is sitting and crying and complaining. Talk is not action. A fucking chit chat isn't action.
I don't sound like a finesse. And again, I'm not saying that therapy couldn't be good, but how do we know who we're going to and who actually should be the person that we have therapy from? And why don't we ask these questions? Why do we just take talking points from some of the people that's just the most popular, like Charlemagne the God, and look at it as gospel, when in reality, who's to say that he's actually a better version of himself? Right? Like, the automatic fix for most people. Yeah, I'm getting therapy. Oh,
Hey, that boy is good.
You're now tuned in.
You are now tuned into
The realest show on YouTube with your host, The Angry Man.
bitch, you broke.
Pain. I've been there, locked up inside my head, broken from fear, illusions, disappointment, and hopelessness. Who heard me in my silence, where being a man means nothing? Despair. I've been there too, desperately seeking answers for the questions associated with manhood, hills and valleys, too bleak to compare. Stress, suffering in a utility silo, no comfort, no security, no freedom, no justice, just do it for others. Challenges, who will help me break the challenges? Lost in the vortex of darkness, hopelessness, fear, and abandonment. I've been there too. I've been there too. Take the next step to your destiny. Join me in this fight. Walk forward. Deep breaths. Head held high, men. Come join me, men, in the winds of time. Stories, hopes, visions, purified in the fire. I'm not a superhero, and I'm not the Reverend Knight. I'm here to help you Join me then in this fight. Break the chains of your mind. Let's do it now. For now is all we have. Fire for your mind. The kosher clinician.
All right, guys, we're going to have a great show on today as we explore the variables associated with therapy and the therapeutic process. Many times people see therapy as a stigma based on ignorance, based on experience, and also based on incompetence by some that denigrate or more or less minimize the importance of the profession. But we're going to more or less look at all the variables associated today, guys, and have a comprehensive conversation. The pens and paper ready. I drop a file for your mind. Do it. All right, guys, we're about to start. And this show is going to be dear to me for a myriad of reasons. It's going to be dear to me for this particular reason. The purpose of this show, guys, is not to cast aspersions towards Anton Daniels or the Angry Man. It's to show a variation, a contrast of thought. Now, some that see therapy as being a benefactor to the soul, body, mind, and spirit. Some that's on the fence about therapy. They think therapy might be okay, but they think that they're quacks in therapy, and that's a fair argument. But then there are some that think therapy is useless. Reason why, or the reasons why, is many or are many. Because therapy universally is something that people of African origin or the Americans of African descent never more or less have used or utilized. Because in the past, faith was our war cry, and faith was the weapon or the tool that we used to help us with our mental distress. I'm going to share something with you guys on the day. Therapy is powerful when you have these variables in place. Some of the variables that you have to have in place when it comes down to therapy is understanding the treatment model. That's one thing. The second thing is if you are a traditionalist and you believe in traditionalism. Some therapists that might be too liberal for your talking points. There are some therapists that are moderate, and then there are therapists that are conservative. There are therapists that more or less adhere to male issues. There are therapists that are more generalized. You have to do the research in psychology today. You have to find the right person that can help you deal with your issues. Anton Daniels versus the angry man, because as I said, there are different factors that cause people to think the way they think. Once you can understand that therapy is a useful model to help you deal with your issues, you can be on the road to success, because a lot of people are going through unresolved issues with mental illness. Some of it is self-inflicted. Some of it is due vicarious trauma. Some of it is biological. And some of it is dark spots or black spots that they're not aware of. Also, that many times when I do these shows, it's really hard to have a conversation or cogent conversation about the therapeutic process. That's why I have to blend it. And there's a concept called ethnocentrism. Ethnocentrism is when another person takes their culture and they transpose that to you. And I came up with a concept called reverse ethnocentrism. Reverse ethnocentrism posits this. Because most therapy is more or less crafted under a Eurocentric model or westernized thought. Many times it doesn't make sense to black people because many therapists don't know how to sell the therapeutic concept to black people. Some of it's laziness, some of it's ignorance on the client's or the patient's perspective, and many lack the power to more or less, break things down to the consumers. And because of that, that can be a problem. Well, reverse ethnocentrism, and one of the reasons why I came up with the kosher clinician is to use urban trends, social talking points that are germane to men and masculinity, and to use those trends to help them understand how the things that they're dealing with can impact them in a mental way. Because what I'm doing is very unorthodox. So once again, it's reverse ethnocentrism, because if I give you cogent or more or less concepts that are this raw, many times you won't understand it or you'll deem it as boring. But doing a show that's more or less predicated on just therapy or therapeutic concepts won't make any sense to many, because many have a very short attention span, which in essence makes it difficult to talk about therapeutic concepts or the therapeutic model. So because of that, many times I'll take the therapeutic concept, reverse it and break it down so you can understand it using stories, social trends, or also trends that are germane, once again, to men issues and masculinity. All right, so give me a minute, guys. Let me look at this. Shout out. Yeah, I do sound muffled. I don't know.
If you guys can hear me, hit one. You should be able to hear me. I think you guys can hear me better now. I'm gonna try to turn this thing back on in a minute. But in the meantime, this is best. The guy says best. But in the meantime, I appreciate it, guys. Thank you. It was a little muffled, and I apologize for that. I had to turn the system off. But I'm going to show you guys from a prior show, and then I'm going to show you a show that the Angry Man did, and it's going to more or less show the variance between Anton and the variance between the Angry Man. And it's going to help you understand why you need to do what you need to do to become a better version of yourself. Consistent with our ancestors, they were Groits. And Groits many times used storytelling to convey a message. And that's the African way. The African way, they use storytelling to convey the message, because concepts that I might use or what others might use, as I said earlier, many of you won't understand it because it won't make any sense. Shout out to Sugar Bum. She said, I'm starting a fund for y'all's therapy. Funny. You might need to get therapy for yourself there, but that's funny. But anyway, I'm going to get better into it, guys. But let me show you guys something real quick as we get deeper into it. Hold tight. And I'm going to show you guys from a prior stream that I did. And it's going to make it make sense to you. And then we're going to get into it with the angry man. And y'all had to forgive me. My internet was messed up on this particular show.
I was sitting in my other chair. I had to get it customized. It cost me a piece of money, guys. But, I'm going to make sure everything I do with y'all going to be first class, state of the art. You guys are saying that, when you guys show me love, it's going to a good cause. Y'all see everything that I'm doing in the background. I'm not one of those content creators to talk about it. I'm going to be about it. But the majority of this money is my own personal money. But I want to make sure I have a good presentation for you people. So, once again, we're going to talk about it, guys. We're going to talk about it. Y'all see that panther swag? Y'all see it. Like the young folks, they stop playing.
And guys, there was
they stop playing.
There was some internet connection on this particular show.
The question, once again, is
if you can hear it,
a scam? And I'm going to tell you, therapy, once again, guys, it's not a scam. Therapy is not a scam. What is therapy? Therapy is basically anything that heals the mind, body, soul, and spirit. That's what therapy is. In the past, black folks didn't have what's called formalized therapy, but they did have therapy in the form of church. They did have therapy in the form of the hymns, music, and also community involvement. I was downtown today at the African American Festival in the Oak City, and that was therapeutic because at one point the community was therapeutic. But however, there were limitations to the therapy that we had in our communities years ago. There were limitations because many times there was never a coalescing of therapy and science, and also this the human experience. The human body is a combination or an amalgamation of all things: soul, body, and spirit. So in the clinical world, we call it the biopsychosocial spiritual model. That's what we call it. So when you look at therapy, you can look at therapy as being formal and also informal. Formal therapy, once again, is substantiated by research. It's substantiated by research. We call it empiricism. It's science behind the therapeutic process. It's science.
And guys, that's what many don't understand about the therapeutic model. Therapy, many times the models that we use or the treatment that we use is predicated on or in what we call empiricism. And empiricism is a fancy way of saying research has been validated and been proven. But the way you disseminate therapy, it can vary based on the clinician's competence, based on the treatment model that you use, and based on their understanding of it, and if that treatment model is too Eurocentric or westernized. But many times in the past, not only was faith the therapy of many black people, many use shamans and they use spiritual leaders or whatever to help them deal with the ailments that they're having. And so many times, because the body or the whole construct of humanity is soul, body, and spirit, and one is off kilter, then all can be off kilter. But keep listening.
Behind it. The school that I went to was a Research One university, so they use science. Now, does therapy have its limitations like all modalities and all interventions? Yes. As I said earlier, do we say all lawyers are scammers? No, all lawyers are not scammers, but some lawyers have been known to scam folks and get money. Many lawyers have a negative connotation of always trying to get money and not do what's best for the client. There's a connotation associated with doctors. The Hippocratic oath said, do the patient no harm. But when you guys go to a doctor's office, many times what you will see doctors with all this information talking about pharmaceuticals and getting different pills and prescriptions because it helps them make money. So is it a hustle to some degree? Yes. But does it invalidate the science? No. Western therapy is totally different than sometimes therapy of the ancients. Therapy of the ancients many times was tied into the esoteric, but the esoteric many times only looked at the spiritual perspective. You had shamans, you had witch doctors, you had priests, you had all kinds of people, and they might not understood the science or the chemistry of what they were trying to administer, but people understood that it worked. So therapy, in a nutshell, is anything that can be holistic to the soul, body, mind, and spirit. That's what therapy is. Being with your friends can be therapeutic, but if you have an organic abnormality, talking to your friends is not going to help you. It might help you in the meantime, but it's not going to help you long term. That's why in the clinical world we have what's called psychologists. We have psychiatrists, which are mind doctors, and then also we have LCSWs, which are broader. Like myself, I'm an LCSW, and that means I have the power to practice in all areas. LCSWs are more broader than many LPCs. LPCs is a licensed professional counselor, but being a LCSW, I can practice not only I can do things at the macro level, which is policy making, but also I can do things at the direct level, which is more or less the clinician or the client or the consumer. But the question remains, why did Shabri Rawls get a certification? And once again, therapy is an art and it's a science. Are there therapists that are not fit to do therapy? Yes. There are incompetent therapists, just like there are incompetent doctors, just like there are incompetent lawyers, just like there are incompetent preachers. But it does not invalidate the basic model of the therapeutic approach. It does not invalidate the science and the research behind it. I'm gonna say it again. There are doctors that are incompetent. There are lawyers that are incompetent. There are scammers that will lie to you to get your money. There are teachers that are incompetent. There are preachers that are incompetent. But it's the human condition. Some therapists are incompetent. But therapy, once again, guys, I'm gonna say it again, therapy is art and science. It's the coalescing of art and science. So just because you get your degree, it does not mean that you're proficient in that pedagogy that you learn. You got the science of therapy, which is the paper and understanding to pass the test, which is the pedagogy. But you don't necessarily know the art or how more or less how to disseminate therapy. Most folks don't have the art. Just like there are teachers that have the science, but they don't have the art to disseminate the knowledge. That's a talent. You got to know how to do it. You got to know how to flip it and more or less spin it to make sure that you're giving people what they need. But many people see therapy as a scam. They say, well, you sit there for years giving money, it's a hustle. Well, that's a myth. That's a myth. Because psychoanalytic therapy sometimes takes years. We call it free association. We call it unpacking. And I'm going to give you guys something that happens in therapy, the process that people don't understand. Your ability to be sufficient in therapy is based on one or two things, or maybe even three things. It's the therapist using the right treatment intervention. That's number one. Are you doing the work yourself? That's number two. Is there a therapeutic alliance between you and the client? That's number three. If they don't know how to use the proper therapeutic model or the intervention, if you're not doing the work, number two, and if there's not an alliance between you guys, number three, then therapy is not going to work. People think when they come to therapy, you just wave the magic wand and, and it goes away. No, it doesn't go away like that. Even trauma doesn't go away. You can understand what happened to you, but for some people, based on their temper.
Guys, if y'all can hear it, let me know. Don't know if you guys can hear it or not. If you guys can hear it, please let me know. Some of you said it's low, so I turned it up to the max. So
permit, based on their ability to do the work, sometimes it takes years to unpack things that are traumatic. But it depends on the person. There are some therapists that are quacks. There are some therapists that they're quacks. I'm not gonna lie. Some of them are quacks. Some people actually became therapists to more or less get their needs met by getting adulation from their clients. Some people that have narcissistic traits or narcissistic personality disorder actually become clinicians so they can get the validation through their clients. Y'all didn't know that. So yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I'm not gonna be biased towards either profession. But for people to juxtapose and presume and assume that therapy is a scam, that's a huge myth, because it's not a scam if you apply it correctly. That's like saying that the Bible is a scam. If you don't take the true level of the gospel and understand it as it relates to anthropology, as it relates to historicity, as it relates to science, as it relates to the application, then it doesn't work. Faith doesn't work unless you work it. You have to work it in order for it to work. You have to have a working knowledge of it as well. But for people to presume and juxtapose that it don't work, it does work. Kevin Samuels said it worked when he was getting therapy. He said he had to do the work. Some people, based on their illness, some people, the treatment or the time variation is worse than others. But the problem with Western therapy is that sometimes Western therapy can have limitations based on what's called an ethnocentric perspective. I'm going to say it again. Sometimes Western therapy can have limitations based on an ethnocentric perspective, because people don't always know how to disseminate the therapy, the therapeutic concepts to certain ethnic classes. It's a challenge. Being black don't always mean you know how to relate to all black people, because black people are not a monolith. But sometimes our white clinicians don't always know how to disseminate information to the black culture sometimes, not always, because there can be some white professionals that do a good job with black patients. You can find some women, and it's far and few in between, that are not part of woke culture that can more or less do well for helping black men understand, but it's rare, it's very rare. But it's this therapeutic process, guys. It's very nuanced. It's very nuanced. And for people that are talking about money or hustle, well, listen, everything is a hustle. Lawyers want money. You don't think lawyers?
And guys, I did this for a reason, or the reason I did this. The reason I did this is for you guys to have an understanding of what I'm talking about, but also how the therapeutic process works. And why it's so important and why it's relevant. So I did this intentionally. I did this for a reason. And so hopefully you guys can hear and understand it. And you guys can see and understand why I'm doing what I'm doing, because what I'm trying to convey makes a lot of sense. Based on the polls, it says that 94% out of 51 feel that, yes, therapy is stigmatized. And that's a problem, because the self-deletion rate is up in the black community, especially with black men. And that's due to a myriad of reasons. One is a lack of having fathers in communities. And then also part of it is because we don't have balance, we don't have identity, we don't have structure, and the families are breaking down. And that's a problem. But it's going to make sense, guys, as I get into it, because the angry man talked about how therapy saved him. And it's going to make sense at some point once I break this thing down, guys. So hold tight as I do it. All right, hold tight. Let me finish. It's not frozen. I said it. Stop it.
Want money? Lawyers will lie for money in civil cases, in criminal cases. They'll lie. Lawyers sell their soul for money. Just like preachers sell their soul for money. Just like doctors will sell their soul for money. Am I saying all doctors do it? No. But there are some that do it, because once again, it's the human condition. There are some therapists that are scammers that use other clients for validation. But to say that the therapeutic model itself is invalid, that's a huge fallacy. Because a lot of the things in the therapeutic model is actually tied back to theology. CBT is actually in the Bible. It says whatever a man thinks, that's what he is. Logotherapy is tied to what's called Viktor Frankl. According to the gospel, it says, whatever state I'm in, I'll be content. Viktor Frankl was a Jew, and he talked about logotherapy. And logotherapy was more or less whatever state I was in a particular time of my life, I'm not going to let my circumstance determine how my mind going to respond. That's logotherapy. Psychoanalytic therapy looks at the unconsciousness and the consciousness of the mind. Some of those things are tied to the Bible. Gestalt therapy or existentialist therapy is tied back to also theology as well. If you look at the book of Ecclesiastes, that goes back to existentialist therapy. When King Solomon or King David was about to die, King Solomon, He was saying there's nothing new under the sun. And also King Solomon was talking about before he died that everything he thought was worth something was vanity. That's an existentialist crisis. So what people don't understand is that many times the Bible itself actually affirms therapy. The Bible affirms a history. It affirms anthropology if you apply it correctly. But most people don't know how to apply it because they're surface thinkers. They're what I call rail thinkers. They go to school and they don't think outside of their pedagogy because they are not independent thinkers. I'm an independent thinker. I don't let people think for me. I think for myself.
So yes, guys, the screen is frozen. This particular show that I did in the past, the internet was bad. So don't worry about the screen. It's gonna make sense at some point. But I just want you to hear the message. So that screen was, yes, it was frozen. It's an older show. But I'm gonna bring it up everything in a minute. It's gonna make sense. Thank you.
Myself, I've always been an independent thinker. I look at all areas. I'm a deep thinker, but most people only think on the surface. That's why they can't have or tie things in together. They don't know how to do it. But therapy is not a scam. Can it be a waste of time if you don't apply yourself and you get the wrong therapist? Yes, it can be a waste of time if you don't apply it and you get the wrong therapist. It can be a waste of time. Yes, it can be. But just like going to a doctor every year could be a waste of time and money. Many times Western medicine does not address the pathology. It only deals with things on a surface level, but it does not address the pathology itself. Western medicine does not address that. Western medicine addresses the symptom, but it does not always address the underlying pathology. That's why we say in the clinical world, we call it body, soul, spirit. We call it the bio, which is the body, the psycho, which is the mind, the social, which is the environment, and also the spiritual, which is the esoteric. Many times the esoteric didn't always cover the biological. And sometimes the biological don't always coalesce with the esoteric. That's why sometimes people, when they see people that had looked like they had demon possession, it wasn't demon possession. It was a biochemical imbalance in their mind that made them hallucinate or see things. But sometimes things that are
All right, guys, hold tight. I don't know what's going on. As I said, guys, that was a old, well, not an old show, but I think you guys get it, or hopefully you guys get it. The purpose of that particular show, or the particular show at the time, was to convey one or two things. The thing that was supposed to convey is just the basic ground or basic groundwork of how therapy works. But you're going to see the comparison and contrast between Anton Daniels, how Anton sees therapy, but also how the angry man see it. And once again, in that particular show, the internet was bad, so it was frozen. Just don't pay any attention. I'm just trying to teach you and trying to convey to you what I'm trying to say. So don't worry about what it looks like. And I'm going to go back and reiterate how people like Shabri Rawls at the time invalidates the therapeutic process. So if you guys can be patient, you're going to see what I'm talking about. Hold tight. All right, so hold tight. It's going to make sense.
Products or whatever. But it does not invalidate the science of being a doctor. Many times doctors get a lot of their information from tropical people, but they are tied into the current world or tied into Western medicine. But it does not invalidate them or make it a scam. It's not a scam. No more than all lawyers are scammers. No more than all preachers are scammers. No more than if all teachers are scammers. But there are therapists that are incompetent. There are therapists that are learning. They're learning. I'm a different therapist now than I was when I first started, because many times you are learning the therapeutic model and how to apply it. It's a science, but also it's an art, and it takes time. I'm going to show you guys something real quick. Like you in the box at the stadium. Yeah. No doubt, false at me. I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it, man. Yeah. Definitely a Panther fan, man. I'm glad you guys saying this a lot clearer. James Turner said that the kosher clinician is Spartan will look much better. Oh my goodness. Hey, James Turner, man, you funny, man. You my homie though, man. I'm glad you're back, man. I'm glad to see you, man. I love you to death, brother. Glad to see you, man. I hope you had a good time in South Africa. At some point, man, maybe I'll drop the link so you guys can come up. But James, you be talking so much junk, man. You were gone for a while, man, and when men get frustrated with how they're being treated with modern women, every now and then, they got to hit you with a little bit of teddy.
You inspire me, inspire me. My greatest inspiration.
Guys, women can be very therapeutic, but sadly, in this day and time that we live in, many modern women of the West are not therapeutic, but they are cancer, they are headache. And that's why a lot of men are beginning to get their passports. That's why my homie, Mr. Turner, was down in the low country of South Africa, meeting beautiful women and enjoying his life. And I'm so glad he got a chance to get out and enjoy himself. And guys, if you guys have not checked out the movie Frustrated 3, go check it out. It's on Venmo for $15.99. Go check it out. Al agrees it's going to be premiering. I'm in the movie. Guapo from Beautiful Lies, Dr. Ron Neal, Chris Strongheart. Go check that movie out, brother, when you get a chance, because therapy in itself is good. When you come together as men and talk, that's therapeutic, but it's informal therapy. It's not comprehensive. I'm going to say it again. When we talk as men, guys, that's therapeutic. But it's not comprehensive therapy. It's not comprehensive, but it is therapeutic. But it's not comprehensive therapy. Because if it does not address the body, if it does not address the mind, if it does not address the spirit or the social, then it's not comprehensive therapy. It's informal therapy, but it's not comprehensive. That's why you have to go to school and get trained for it. And it's a very long, arduous process. Just like teachers. Every teacher does not have that what's called that je ne sais quoi. Every teacher can't teach. They might have a certification to teach. Some people are just functional in their teaching, but they don't have what I said, they don't have the talent to teach. Just like some people can get on the basketball court and they're just naturally talented. They didn't have to really go through any prep school to learn how to play ball. They're just naturally talented, and that's the succinct difference. Some people that are therapists are just
all right, guys, I'm going to
talented
speed this up a little bit. Hold tight.
The mind or the brain. In the clinical world, we call it neuroplasticity. It's called neuroscience. We talk about neural pathways. All that stuff play a role in how your brain operates. Trauma can impede your neuroplasticity. Your bad environment that's based on trauma can stop your brain from developing. That's science. That's comprehensive science. So when people say, well, it don't work, well, it does work. It works if you know how to apply it and if you understand it correctly. But many times, every therapist cannot disseminate correctly the knowledge or the information because some are new or they're novices, just like the young lady Shabri Rawls. She's definitely a neophyte. And I'm going to say that also it seems like she might have some underlying mental illness. But like I told you guys before in the past, there are some therapists that get into therapy to get validation from other people. I'm going to say it again. Some therapists get into therapy to get validation from other people because some of those people, guys, have underlying personality disorders. They have underlying personality disorders. They have not gotten eradicated. And as I told you guys sometime before in the past, all things that look like sometimes demonic possession is not demonic possession. But all things that look like some that's of medical science, it's not always medical science. They can mirror one another because it's called psychosoma. Psycho is the mind, soma is the body. That's what we call it, somatoform disorders. Somatoform also can lead to what's called a conversion disorder. But therapy is like a toolbox. Some of the heavy hitters is CBT, Gestalt therapy or existentialist therapy, systems therapy. It's therapy there are many tools to help deal with the human condition. But once again, like I told you guys before in the past, therapy is really tied back to theology, logotherapy, Whatever a man think, that's logotherapy. Whatever state I'm in, I'll be content. That's logotherapy. Some of these practitioners perhaps were influenced in the early years by theology. Also, CBT is tied to theology. Whatever a man think, that's what he is, because cognitive behavioral therapy is a universal model that's predicated on thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. But once again, a person has to do the work. You have to be very intentional in the therapeutic process. You have to be very intentional, meaning you have to own your therapy. But if you don't own it, then you'll never grow. You got some folks that come to therapy, with the mouth poked out, and they think the therapist will do all the talking. If you got a therapist that's talking more than you, then that person's not giving you therapy. Because a true therapist is a facilitator or a conduit of change. What a true therapist will do, he'll help facilitate growth and help facilitate change. That's what a true therapist will do. That's what a true therapist will do. But at the end of the day, you have to own your issues. That's why many times in the early stages of therapy, when we're formulating goals, many times I ask clients, what do you want to work on? And we'll more or less work on things based on the current diagnosis that I might see. But if you take an active approach in your therapeutic growth and help, then you will change. But, for people to make a false assumption that all therapists seek to make money, but that's a myth. Because if you're going to castigate therapists, then you need to castigate yourself. If people are going to castigate therapists, they need to castigate all other professions as well. You need to castigate doctors, you need to castigate preachers, you need to castigate lawyers, you need to castigate all of them. But once again, are there incompetent people in therapy? Yes. Just like they're incompetent therapists, incompetent people in all professionals. You got incompetent lawyers, you got incompetent doctors, you got incompetent preachers. It's hard to find somebody that's kosher, that's fit and proper. That's what kosher means. It means to be complete. You evolve as a professional. You're not going to take a first-year doctor and that first-year doctor still be or in a skill set like he was in the first year. There should be an evolution in that doctor's growth. There should be an evolution. Right. There should be an evolution. If you're not growing on a consistent basis, then there's something wrong with you in the therapeutic process. There should be an evolution as you begin to grow as a clinician. Just like there should be an evolution as it relates to a scientist. James Turner's a scientist. He's a computer scientist. But he'll tell you the same thing. You're not going to operate at that same level years ago that you're operating on now. You should evolve. Shout out to some of the people that have given super chats. Hold tight. Shout out to Top Gun. Top Gun said that would you agree that some patients only seek therapy only to get validation from the therapist as well? Yeah, that's possible, Top Gun. Thank you, brother. Yeah, sometimes.
A lot of people don't know this, but the best way to prevent divorce, stop separation, and win your wife back.
Okay. Just let me know, sweetie, when you get a minute. I'll keep reading in the meantime. Real quick.
Hold tight.
Why ethnocentrism and cultural competence matter? We're going to talk about that in a minute. Because many times, many people of color feel that other therapists of other persuasions can't help them. And sometimes that's true. Some therapists come in with what's called confirmation bias, especially when it comes down to men. Many are gender biased. They judge men based on their experiences and also their own issues. That's why therapists need to make sure that they're not emitting countertransference to the clients. They need to make sure that they're getting the proper help and they're getting the proper supervision. Because sometimes, because we're human, we can use countertransference. And we're not effective with our clients because we tend to assume that all people more or less are a reflection of the pain or the struggles that they went through in the past. But we're going to talk about ethnocentrism in the past. And ethnocentrism is the fancy way of saying I need to strive to understand all ethnic groups and understand all things associated with those ethnic groups. But many times historically, black people never went to therapy because just like Asians see therapy as a stigma. Anything associated with mental illness is a stigma. Black folks say, I'm just going to pray and let the law fix it. But they don't understand how the mind works and how the mind works in accord to the body. Some of your relationships are messed up now because you have underlying issues with therapy. Some of it goes back to what's called attachment theory. It talks about attachment, that you have a healthy attachment as a child. If your attachment was not healthy, your psychosocial stage of development can still be in a state of arrested. It could be in arrested development. But we're going to talk about it in a minute. But in the meantime, let's finish this with this young lady is saying.
Meditate. Masturbate. But yeah, in all seriousness, this shit is taking quite a severe toll on my health. And I ain't been eating, sleeping, none of that shit. And like I said, chest pain. So I respectfully...
So she's dealing with anxiety now. Shabri Rawls is dealing with anxiety. She's probably dealing with situational anxiety. She's probably dealing with situational anxiety. I promise you guys, if you looked at her past and looked at her family dynamics, I could be wrong, but I would not be surprised if she is from a single parent home. She looks like she have identity issues. Children that sometimes grow up in single parent homes sometimes can have identity issues. Keep listening.
Do not give a fuck about the internet enough to sacrifice my health. So in the meantime, thank you for all the new peeps. I'm so excited that you're here. If you would allow me to get some rest and recuperate, the shit I'm gonna bring for y'all, I don't know, I think it's gonna be amazing. But yeah, just in all of the crazy shit that's happened, thank you for all the people who are supporting me. I really fucking appreciate you. I am excited to offer new services, do different streaming platforms, just different types of content. We're gonna get our little podcast daddy going, but it's gonna be great. But I need to rest, write down, reflect, set my intentions on where I want this thing to go, because I want it to be beautiful. I want it to be nice. I want it to be great for all of us, you know? Yeah. So for the people who think I'm down bad, I'm not. A bitch is fine. Like, a bitch is chilling. I'm really gonna take this time to get back to where the fuck I need to be mentally, I guess, spiritually, physically, because this shit's taking a toll on me. And how the fuck am I supposed to provide y'all with that fire if I'm about to jump off a fucking bridge?
Right. I don't know if she was joking about this or she was serious, but she said, if I'm about to jump off a bridge. Shout out to Ronaldo Kelly for the $2 super chat. I appreciate it, brother. I mean, cash out. Thank you, Ronaldo Kelly. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. But you guys have seen it. She's manifesting many odd behaviors, odd behaviors to say the least. Yeah, very odd behaviors. And see, guys, when you look at things, when you do what's called a diagnostic, a CCA or clinical, there's a mental health status exam that looks at the speech, it looks at the thought content, it looks at the orientation, it looks at their gait. The gait is how they walk. All this is tied to science. It's all tied to the medical profession. That's why in the clinical world, we look at things through the bio, the psycho, the social, and the spiritual. If the body is off, then the body can affect the mind can affect the spirit can also affect the environment. They're all integrated. And that's why many times you have to go through a very arduous process to get licensed, because many clinicians never pass the clinical exam. Some people do. Some people are better at taking tests, but they're not better at disseminating the information. Some people are better at being empathetic and understanding the human condition, but they're not good at passing the test or understanding the theoretical outcomes. It's hard to find people that can balance both. It's very hard to find it.
I can't. I definitely just want to end by saying...
and you heard her passively say that she thought about jumping off a bridge. And there have been therapists, guys, that have taken their lives because I'm not going to say they don't believe in what they're learning, but once again, they've learned, but once again, unless you apply it, and unless you have a life outside of your profession, you can burn out. It's something called compassion fatigue. And that's why you have to have what's called work-life balance. That's why you need to have other people that you can pour in. Because see, when you pour into other people, it's draining. That's why therapists sometimes need other folks they can talk to vent, because they're human. They might understand the information, but they're still human beings. Just because you understand the clinical process does not take away your humanity as a human being.
The latter part of the last 2 years, I have been actively suicidal. Still pushing.
So you hear what she said. So Yeah, wow. She's been suicidal the last 2 years. So she needs help. And I can see why people that look at her, shout out to my homie Anton, I can see why he would say that therapy could be a scam. He didn't say it was, but I can see why many people could see it as a scam. But once again, it's not a scam. I'm gonna run the clip by Andrew Tate in a minute. Andrew Tate made a fallacious assumption that, people that are more or less talking about their issues just need to get up and do it. But see, that's like folks that say they have depression and they say, well, just pray it away and trust in God. You don't understand, once again, how the body impacts the mind impacts the body impacts the mind impacts the spirit, and the spirit impacts the environment. It's a psychosomatic response. They're all integrated. So there are some people that speak and they mean well, but they speak in ignorance. Until you have the background and the education to understand the esoteric, to understand the scientific implications based on research, but also based on genetics and genetic predisposition, all the theoretical implications as well, then you mean well, but you don't really understand how it works. It's a lot more nuanced than that. Can you imagine, once again, if we looked at other helping professions and say they were scams? That would be an indictment, because they're not. Or are there scammers in professions? Yes, because that's the human condition. Hold tight.
Pushing out content because I just felt like, somebody needed to hear it. But I'm just not going to sacrifice my mental health anymore for this shit. Like, I'm not going to do it. It's hypocritical. So to protect my mental health and my depression and anxiety and all this shit, I'm going to take a break. So I love you guys.
So once again, she's dealing with anxiety and depression. Is it situational anxiety and depression? Situational meaning it's not organic, meaning she's not genetically predisposed to it. But if it's situational, it's just based on the situation. We all go through situational anxiety, but we don't have the diagnosis of generalized anxiety disorder. So it's nuances to this thing, man. I'm glad she's getting help, but I would not be surprised if this young lady grew up in a single parent home, because it looks like she's having an identity issue. It's like she has identity issues, to say the least.
Guys, be well, drink your water, do your coping skills, and I'll see you very soon. Bye, babies. Hello, babies. Final thoughts and prayers.
So what do you guys think about this young lady? What do you guys think about Shabri self-aware?
Hey there, Ron LeGrand here. For over 40 years now, I've been buying and selling houses without using my...
They don't have a level of self-awareness.
All right, I'm going to break this down, guys.
This is Anton from AntonDaniels.com.
And once again, guys, this is fair use. Shout out to Anton once again. That's my brother. But I want to critique some of his points in a fair and a cohesive manner. So hold tight.
Appreciate you guys for continuing to rock with me. I got a simple question, and then I got a couple theories. But I want to run this by you guys really quickly. And I'm just asking questions. Please don't look at me funny, but I have to ask the question. I don't think anything is above reproach. Is therapy a scam? Let me...
And I think his question is a fair question based on what we're seeing. But once again, if you ask if therapy is a scam, then we need to ask, are lawyers scammers, are preachers scammers, are doctors scammers, are priests or pastor scammers, are all other profession scammers? Because we got to look at it through the context of all issues. Once again, guys, it's the human condition of the human experience. Hold tight.
Say that one more time. Is therapy a scam? And the reason I ask this question, right, is, for the longest, over the last, I would say, at least 5 years, Charlemagne the God practically did a whole book on it. Everybody is advocating for it. Everybody believes that their problems are solved. I've had conversations on panels where people say they're in therapy basically for their entire life. I'm wondering if therapy is not only a scam, but one of the biggest finesses of all time. And I'm just asking a question. I'd love to get your feedback. I want to know what you think in the comments. Let me pose a theory really quickly, or two, right? And I'm out and about, and I'm taking care of business, and I'm about to go and pick up the homie Charleston White and see what he's talking about, and we're gonna shoot some content and all of that. But let me pose a theory really quickly, right? Because we've seen the young lady on TikTok that basically got fired from her job because everybody exposed her once she went viral, telling chicks to hoe it out and going off on dudes. And
guys, do me a favor, share the stream, please. Share the stream and share the content. This is a show that many need to listen to because it could give them help and clarity about the therapeutic process. I think I've done a very comprehensive job, to say the least. But share the stream, guys. And once again, I think Anton is being fair. But share the stream because it's nothing wrong with him answering the question. But I think I've answered the question in a concise manner, to say the least.
she was calling them all types of names, and you know, she went off and mentioned Kevin Samuels and basically called a lot of guys incels, right? And so when you think about that and you start to put it in perspective, this woman is a licensed professional. Licensed professional. Now, let me pull in another scenario in order to try to substantiate my point really quickly. Regularly, we see people going off on and highlighting how we need to get rid of and defund the police, basically live lawless. They will tell you that because this police officer over here has gotten arrested or he did something egregious, that all police is bad and F the police. I mean, there's been whole songs and Ice-T and NWA historically. I mean, you know, the general public, and it's not just black people. If you look at all of those protests that was happening, it wasn't majority black people out there. It was a lot of other people. There's been an entire narrative that's been spun about police officers based off of the behavior of some other bad apples. And so when we start to see exactly what's going on in these other people's lives, because I also did a live stream just yesterday about how a marriage therapist and a mental health therapist is in a foursome, and clearly you can see that she was overly masculine, that she was moving a certain type of way and all of that.
And so I see where Anton is coming from. You would think that a professional would have ethical decorum, but that's not always the case. You can be skilled or not skilled based on your pedagogy. You might know how to disseminate the information, but you might not be a moral person. They should be a moral person, but once again, then we need to look at Dr. Jack Kevorkian, Dr. Kemet Gosnell, pastors that have lied and scammed folks. Eddie Long, they were saying, was a scammer. Some of these lawyers, they have scammed and lied to folks to get their money. Some of these therapists, like, you know, they were ignorant. Some of these teachers as well, some of the cops as well. If we're going to critique therapists under that same lens, then we need to scrutinize every profession. But I do agree with him. You would think that people that are professionals will have a higher level of professional decorum, but it's not always the case, to say the least.
She didn't have it all up here. She didn't have it all up here. If you want to check that out, go to the Millionaire Morning Show, look at it and see what the live stream was from yesterday, Friday the 26th, I think, of August 2022. Look at the live stream and tell me what you think about that therapist. And I've run into several different therapists that didn't have all of their marbles together. And so now I'm starting to ask the question, like, licensed and certified.
And Anton is right. Some of these therapists are weird. Some are. Some actually have underlying mental illness themselves. Some use therapy as a way to pacify their fragile egos, as I said earlier. But that does not encompass all therapists. It doesn't. Nor does what Dr. Jack Kevorkian or Dr. Kemet Gosnell did encompasses all medical professionals. We have to look at things case by case and not give an indictment to the whole profession. But I think his questions are fair questions, but it can be myopic to some degree because we're looking at it through the lens of one or two people. When you do what's called random samples or randomization, and if you start to see a pattern in that random sample, then you can make a clear judgment. But if you're not seeing the same behaviors in those random samples, then it's safe to say that one person or those two persons does not represent the whole. So once again, guys, Get the likes up, share the content. If you're not donated to the show, donate to the channel. Shout out to James Turner, the #1 sponsor of the stream, and everyone else have given. But guys, share the stream. If you don't have any money to share, just share the stream. Thank you, guys.
By who? Because their ability to be able to pass a test? That's what makes you licensed and certified to be able to give people mental health therapy. It reminds me of life coaches. Like, I've seen 23-year-old life coaches. What makes you think that you're in a position to be able to give me advice based off of your ability to take a course? You know how big life is? You know what it takes to be an overcomer? Do you know how to build a business? Know what it takes to have kids? Being married for 20 plus years. Whatever that looks like, what makes people think that certain people are certified and good enough to be able to tell somebody else what they should or shouldn't do based off of their ability to be able to get board certified? And I'm not saying that all therapists are bad in the same way that I'm not saying that all cops are bad.
Right, and so Anton is fair. So shout out to him. I didn't hear the whole thing, but he is fair. But he's just posing a question, and his question does have merit, because his logic is this: if you represent a profession, then you should have a high level of professional decorum. I think Anton is looking at things through idealism, but as you continue to grow and learn, you got to look at things through pragmatism and reality. Anton is looking at it through an idealistic lens, which is nothing wrong with that, because idealistically, he is correct. Certain people should not more or less be manifesting those behaviors. But as I've been in this profession long enough, like Gail Nelson said and T. Kings, many of these therapists operate under a liberal construct. Many are woke therapists. And so if you're dealing with a woke therapist, if you're traditional, then it's not going to work. If you're woke and liberal, then a woke therapist will work for you. But many are taught under a lens that is many times anti-tradition, anti-male, anti-family, and all of that.
All right, so guys, that was just a forerunner, and it was used to give you guys a template or a framework. But what I'm about to show you now is based on what the Angry Man went through, and he broke it down. So guys, once again, donate to the channel, get the likes up. I wanted to do this show because there's a lot of ignorance behind the therapeutic process and how therapy operates. And some don't understand why I do it or do my channel the way that I do it. But once again, I do it from an ethnocentric perspective or reverse ethnocentric perspective, a perspective that's not germane to Eurocentric ideology, but a perspective that's germane mostly to the African concept, meaning storytelling, but not only storytelling, using urban and social trends to convey a message outside of the academic framework. And that's why I do it the way I do it. When I taught school, they would sometimes rap to try to educate the students, because many times the pedagogy or the thought process is not from an African or Afrocentric perspective. So reverse ethnocentrism is why I do things the way that I do. And I do it to more or less try to help, more or less bring forth a perspective from an urban perspective, but also to inculcate clinical concepts as well. So once again, guys, get the likes up, donate to the channel if you're not donated. And I'm going to show you this from Anton's perspective. And then, maybe not Anton, but the Angry Man. And then I'm going to end the stream because I got things I got to do. All right, so hold tight. All right, so the Angry Man talks about therapy. He talks about therapy and how therapy benefited him. Now, if you guys have been to a therapist, I need you to hit 1. If you don't believe in the therapeutic process, I need you to hit 2. And once again, if you like what I'm doing in this particular show, that I'm not going to be on too much longer, donate to the channel, please. All right, so let's get into it. And guys, tell me what y'all think. Hold tight.
Relationship that fulfills them and makes them happy.
Hold tight, hold tight, hold tight. Angry Man did an awesome job. and he is an advocate for therapy, and he talks about how therapy helped him.
I done said this over and over again. You cannot, it is not in female nature to find fulfillment in education, career, accolades. All that stuff is awesome. And I'm pretty sure women are proud of their accomplishments, but you don't get the same fulfillment out of that. It ain't no different for us dudes. Let me say this. Let me say this. As much as us dudes like money, success, and power, right? Do you know when guys feel the most fulfilled? When we're able to take care of and provide for those we love that genuinely love us back. We get a great deal of fulfillment from that. A great deal of fulfillment from that. Like real shit. Because that's in our nature as a man. And this is why we feel so betrayed when we provide for a woman or children and they don't appreciate it. This is why we get depressed. This is why we get upset. This is why we get angry. Because the only thing a man wants to know is that he's appreciated. And the only thing a woman wants to know is that she's loved.
And Anton is 1,000,000% correct. Men feel love through service and that woman's response to that service. Women feel love through the eros and feeling covered and protected. Shout out to Armanize and Brandon Jett for the 5 and the 10. I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. But once again, guys, I did this show because I want to convey a message to help you guys understand how therapy can be seen through the lens of different people in the black community. Some see it as a benefactor, some see it as a detractor, and some see therapy as a non-factor at all. But therapy is very powerful if you get the right therapist that's competent, that's competent in culture, competent in masculinity. And sadly, many black men need therapy because many therapists, some, I would say, don't quite understand the struggles of black men in America, sadly. And that's why I do what I do, once again, from an urban perspective, but also from a black man perspective. Why I try to encompass and help not only black men, but my mission is to help all men that are struggling or suffering in silence.
But the love that a woman gets from her husband, that love is not matched by nobody else. You cannot replace that love with just a child, because a child grows up and moves away and finds their own love. You can't replace that love with a friend, because a friend goes off and gets their own mate and finds their own love. And the love you get from your parents, that's a different dynamic. I don't know why these women don't understand this. And I know some of you women came here thinking, oh, Angry Man's gonna bash Taraji. You didn't think I was gonna hit you with this damn truth. This undeniable truth. You can try to hate on it if you want to, but you can't argue with the logic. You can't argue with the logic. I'm sorry. You cannot.
Blessing that you could, number one, be comfortable enough to say that. Mm-hmm. Clearly, you got to be comfortable enough to tell your whole team and everybody involved with you, like, I'm going away for a month, and being okay with that, and just have the will and the ability to be able to be like,
it got
this is
really
what I
dark,
need.
Angie. Mm-hmm. It got so dark that I couldn't see, and I was afraid because.
Shout out to Mike OG. Shout out to Black Wolf, man. Y'all hit the Cash App for this fire I'm dropping today. We gonna save some lives today. We gonna save some relationships today. We gonna get some people undepressed today. You feel me? Hit the Cash App and support the show, man.
The first time the person who everybody thinks is so strong was not. And I was scared for myself. I don't think I would ever harm myself, but suicidal ideation is real. It's real.
I get it. I don't have those thoughts. I haven't. I don't know. In my life, I'm sure I have, period. But I understand.
It's real.
I understand how. I understand.
Especially now where things, you see people who are strong, you deem to be strong or happy.
Yeah, but they're doing the same thing you said you do. You show up in a room, you smile, you hug people, you give them love. That has nothing to do with what's going on inside.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, thank God. I'm as somebody who cares about you, I'm grateful that you have the will and the care for yourself to even make that.
Yeah.
Make that shit.
And you see what Angie's doing right now? She's an enabler. Shout out to Jay Villa, said keep dropping AM. She's an enabler. See, this is what y'all do. When y'all get around each other and y'all have a real problem, because what she's talking about, what Taraji's talking about right now is a serious issue. That's a serious issue. But what do you notice? What do you notice? You notice her self-medicating. I'm going to go on a trip by myself for 30 days. That ain't healthy. That's not healthy. And what is Angie sitting here saying? Oh, I'm so glad that you got the will and the strength. See, here's the problem. Y'all got to stop trying to empower each other under false pretenses. Because what you're doing to each other is what we men call blowing smoke up your ass. Y'all sit around blowing smoke up each other's ass all the damn time. I have not heard Angie once in this interview say, have you considered getting therapy? Instead of going on a trip by yourself to continue to ruminate on your problems.
And that goes back, and that goes back to the lack of resolve and the lack of understanding the therapeutic process, but also it goes back to the lack of respecting the therapeutic process. Many don't respect the therapeutic process because many don't think they need it. But I looked at the movie Aretha last night, and Aretha was going through unresolved issues. A lot of folks went through a lot of unresolved issues with therapy because we didn't value it and we didn't understand it. Therefore, we didn't get the requisite help. But therapy is powerful, guys. It's very powerful if all the stars align. And I thought the Angry Man did a very good job breaking this thing down and how therapy impacted him. He was the Angry Man. I would say he should change his name to the Evolved Man, because anger a lot of times is a byproduct of a condition called displaced aggression. And displaced aggression a lot of times is when you place your anger towards a target that was not the intended target. Hence, it's an unhealthy ego or unhealthy defense mechanism or unhealthy coping, sadly. So hold tight.
Out to no one said, but she had a man, fiance, and left him. If you think you're lonely now, wait until tonight, girl. Exactly. She ain't said it once. She even heard the self-deletion word and still didn't say it. You know damn well if somebody says that word to you, the next thing you're supposed to say to that person is, well, you need to get therapy. You need to talk to someone. You need to talk to a professional. If you really care about that person, and I'm gonna tell you what makes me mad. This is what makes me angry more than anything in this world, right? This really burns me up. There are people out here that have a bad viewpoint on therapy, or they went to a therapist that wasn't a good therapist. So every time someone says something about therapy, the first thing that flies out of everybody else's mouth is therapy doesn't work.
Right. Talk to the people, angry man, because the angry man is right. Once again, it's confirmation bias based on their own struggle and based on their own pain. Therapy is like a buffet. You have to go to different shops to get what's called an acquired palate. But many don't do that because they'll go do it one time and they'll say, well, all therapists is bad, but that's foolish. That's a thinking error called catastrophizing. Because that's like saying all preachers are bad. That's like saying all women are bad. That's like saying all men are bad. That's like saying all doctors are bad. It's a thinking error, and it's also overgeneralization. And those thinking errors many times impede you from becoming the better version of yourself.
That shit pisses me off. Pisses me off, bro. Marcus said the wall is undefeated. Indeed, my friend. Indeed. So, back in, I want to say 2010, 2011, something like that, right? I was going through a lot, right? Shout out to Doug Will. He said, facts. If someone admits they are in a dark place, the last thing they need to do is isolate themselves in a foreign country for a month. Facts. So this is what I was going through. I had lost my job in corporate America, right? I had a BMW, and because I had lost my job in corporate America, the payments on that BMW were crushing, right? Were crushing me, right? Because of my father knowing a lot of people in certain industries, he was able to get me a job at Precision Tune, right? Working on cars and stuff, right? Now, the messed up part is my father was no longer here. He was in California, so I couldn't do what I usually do, which is I would get a job where my father worked that I could use his tools. So I didn't have all of the tools I needed, right? So basically what I had to do is when you work in a place like that, the Matco truck or the Snap-on truck, they'll come by and they'll basically give you an account and you just pay on the tools whenever you get paid. So every payday, they'll come over to the shop and you got to make a payment on your tools, right? So I was working at this place. I was getting paid every week. And I was somewhat maintaining. I would go and get my kids as often as I could, but I couldn't do it as much as I could before until I got back straight, right? So already, I'm giving between the Snap-on guy and the Matco guy, I'm giving over $100 of my check every time I get paid, right? Then I got this freaking car payment, I got this insurance payment, and everything else I got to take care of, right? And I'm literally going in the hole. It's not enough money. Literally going in the hole, right? Going in the hole. You feel me? Shout out to Jeffrey. He said, kind of knew that Taraji would be single again. Sad. Shout out to Nostalgic. Said, defining appreciation and love beforehand are vital elements of overall healthy living. the trouble with destruction come in the illusion that we can figure it out as we go. Exactly. So I'm already tight. Everything is already tight, right? I'm still going to get my kids. I'm still, kicking out money when I can, to the point where I'm even pawning shit just to make sure they're straight, right? Unbeknownst to me, my kid's mother goes to child support and takes out a case on me. And one day I get my check, and my check is small as hell. And I'm like, what the hell? And I look, and it's child support being taken out.
And guys, here's what happens many times when men suffer in silence. They implode,
going to get them,
or they do something that's detrimental to their character.
And
so that's a problem.
I'll never forget that feeling. I contacted Child Support Division. I said, man, what is this? But she filed back in, apparently she'd seen me with this car and was like, oh, he got money. Even though I'm providing, right? And the caseworker didn't really have nothing to say to me except for, well, you got to pay it. And at that moment, I felt so defeated. I felt so defeated, like I was in a really dark place. I was in such a dark place that I went to my girl's job, which is my current wife. I went to her job and I said, I need to talk to you, right? And so at the time she was working at a medical facility, right? So she stepped away from the desk and was like, well, come over here. So we went in one of the exam rooms or whatever. And I just started telling her about what just happened and everything that was going on. And I was in tears. I was in tears, and I was like, yo, I can't do this no more. I'm fighting to do this. I'm fighting to do that. I'm trying to provide for my kids, and I'm still getting screwed over and all of this shit. And my girl said to me, she said, maybe you need to go to a therapist. And at first I was skeptical about it, right? And she said, one of my friends that works here goes to this lady that's a therapist, right? It's an older white lady, right? So I was at my wit's end. I didn't have nothing, right? I had nothing. I had no more tricks. I had no more this, that, and the third, right? And I was like, babe, I ain't got money for that. She's like, don't worry about it. I'll pay for it, right? So she contacted the lady, set it up, and I went and spoke to this lady. And this lady ended up being my therapist for a while, right? I went and spoke to this lady, and she asked the right questions. And I was able to unload and talk about things that had been bothering me for a really long time. And I didn't know what that was going to do for me, but the way that woman sat there and listened to me without any type of judgment, without any type of it's your fault, without any type of any of that shit. She sat there and listened. And she, you know what she said? She said, the thing that you're doing wrong is you're trying to give too much of yourself to everybody else, and you're not looking out for you. And throughout those therapy sessions, I can honestly say that even after that initial therapy session,
and it's so powerful, and what Angry Man is saying is so irrelevant, because many times black men are in a judgmental state. They have not been heard. They are not heard, and they're not given the proper tools to help them deal with their issues. Many times black men have been used to being accosted for all things, even though many of those black men had nothing to do with it. So when you hear someone that can hear your pain and hear your issues from a non-judgmental perspective, it does volumes to your soul, body, mind, and spirit. But therapy, once again, guys, is viable if you understand therapy, the therapeutic process, and what you're looking for.
I felt better. Even with all of the bullshit that was on me, I felt better. You feel what I'm saying? I immediately felt better. Shout out to Saab. He said, all love from South Africa, Angry Man. Appreciate you. I immediately felt better. And because I got it off my chest, because I felt better, I was able to come up with a plan. I quit that fucking job because I'm like, no, we're not going to do this where you're taking money out of my check. I quit that freaking job. And, you know, not long after that, I became a tattoo artist, started making my own money. You know what I'm saying? Did what I needed to do to get that child support situation straight. And I've never had to deal with depression again after those therapy sessions. I've never had to deal with depression again because I stopped doing the things that was causing me to become depressed. You feel what I'm saying? I stopped putting other people before me.
And what Angry Man is talking about, guys, is something called situational depression. Situational depression is a byproduct of an adjustment disorder. Listen, an adjustment disorder is not a bona fide, organic, maladaptive issue, but it's something that's predicated or based on what you're going through at that particular time in your life. So many times it can be depression, or it can be anxiety and depression, or it can be certain behaviors and conducts based on what you're struggling with and what you're dealing with. And so it's important for men to get the right therapy, but also the climate that men currently live in does not benefit them because the laws and the rules are very gynocratic. And I agree with Tim Howard. When it comes down to America, you need to make sure you get a comprehensive prenup, or more or less strive to get a woman from a country that believes in tradition and family. You have to go into a marriage with power, because if you don't, some men have lost their lives due to the current court system and also the callousness of so many modern women in relationships.
I stopped bending over backwards for people. I stopped giving a damn what other people think. Because that lady told me flat out, you don't owe your parents anything. You don't owe your mama, you don't owe your daddy, you don't owe nobody. You owe yourself to make sure you're straight. She's like, part of the reason why you feel the way you feel is because every single time you've needed somebody to lean on, they failed you. And she said, you need to ask yourself this question. Certain people that are in your life, how would your life be different if they weren't in your life? Would it be different? And I was like, not really.
And shout out to Arminage. You're right, sister. There are a few women. I always talk about the few. I call them the remnant. There is a remnant of women that are traditional. There is a remnant of women that get it and understand it. But understand when I talk in generalities. And in general, sadly, there's not enough women like yourself to appease or more or less help men get the outcomes that they need to be healthy in soul, mind, body, mind, and spirit. But sadly, because it doesn't happen or we don't see it, many men are checking out, sadly. But you are correct. And I'm going to convey something to you guys. If you want to be healthy, you have to start and understand what your value system is. Once you understand what your value system is, then you will not allow or more or less put yourself in a position where you can be disrespected. Your values will determine what your boundaries are. Now, mother, break it down to you. I value respect. Therefore, my boundaries are, if a man or a woman don't respect me, then they're going to be cut off. I value financial fidelity. Therefore, a woman that comes into my life that does not understand the value of money and how it works, she can't be with me. I value communication. Therefore, if a woman don't value communication and how communication is important to her in a relationship, she can't be with me. I value my woman honor and respect of me. Therefore, the boundary is if she does not respect my boundaries and don't be around men that are not part of my family, or she doesn't more or less intact or more or less communicate with men outside of my permission, then I got a problem with it. So your values will determine what your boundaries are. But sadly, some of you men have not been given the proper tools to erect boundaries and values that can help you become better men. And that's why you have to have a value system that leads to healthy boundaries in relationships. Because at the end of the day, your mental health will suffer irreparably if you don't have the right woman in your life to help you meet your mission on earth. She was made for you to help you meet your mission in the earth. And if a woman help you meet your mission in the earth, then you can turn around and you bless that woman, love her, protect her, and you die for that woman. But it's not free. It comes with a price. Sadly, men and women in the West think it's free. And that's a value issue.
She said, then that's not an important relationship. Because in an important relationship, it's not, you can't be the one doing all the work. If the other person that is your friend or your family member or in your relationship, if they're not putting in work to make sure that relationship is working, that's not a relationship that's worthwhile. So I'll say this to everybody that thinks therapy is bad. It's not that therapy is bad. You have to find a good therapist. And I'm here to tell you right now, if you're going to a therapist that is some kind of therapist that you get through broke situations, like if you're going to a therapist in the VA, no. If you're going to a therapist because you were in a group home, no. If you're going to, therapists are like lawyers.
Right.
Okay? If you go and get a court-appointed lawyer, you're going to be ass out. No, you have to go get the top lawyer. You have to.
And the angry man is 1,000% correct. He's 1,000% correct. If you want a good therapist, you got to get the best. At some point, I might even start my own practice and do private insurance because I take what I do serious. There are some that don't take the therapeutic process serious. If they don't take the process serious, then I get rid of them because my time is too valuable. I want you guys to understand that I do give and do what's called non-diagnostic consultations. A non-diagnostic consultation is not a diagnosis. It's just a consult where we talk about whatever issues that are going on in your life, and I can lead you and point you in the right direction based on what I'm hearing. But because I'm not licensed in all states in the United States, I cannot work with you and I cannot diagnose you because that means you will be my patient. But I can give you parameters around whatever issue that you are dealing with, or we can just talk as men, and I can tell you based on evidence, based on the anecdotal perspective, but also based on practicality, how to eradicate or change the issues that you're dealing with. All right, hold tight.
To go get the dude that costs money but knows what the hell he's doing. If you want to find a good therapist, you can't be cheap about it. Period. You cannot be cheap about it. And I know some of you don't want to hear that, but it's the damn truth. It's the truth. If you want help, you're going to have to pay. Because the good therapists are not cheap. You feel me? You don't want no court-appointed therapist. Like, you feel what I'm saying? For lack of a better phrase. But the fact that this woman did not say that she needs to go to a therapist is utterly ridiculous. B. Scott said there is no lying in therapy. Being transparent is a requirement. Exactly. And see, y'all know how I am. I don't even.
And I'm gonna tell you another thing that I see, guys, a lot of times. Being a black male therapist, people want to get you on the cheap, or they want you to be what's called a Negro therapist. But I tell clients moving forward, you're not going to waste my time. If you want a consultation, you're going to pay me like you pay everybody else. What I've learned, I heard the lead attorney say this, and he's correct. If you devalue the work that you bring, then people will devalue it. But folks will come to me and say, well, do you take insurance? Well, no, I don't take insurance for consultations. But what I can give you, if you use it and apply it, can help you become better. And that's why I tell people to have their questions ready, because at that particular point, I'm just looking at solution-focused issues. But they want to, get what I call Negro discounts. Well, I have too many degrees, man, to get a discount. You're going to respect me, you're going to respect my profession, and you're going to respect the work that I work in. I'm not going to do stuff for free because my time is important and me going to school was very important. So sadly, many want discounts, and when you tell them what the prices are, you never hear from them again. That lets me know you don't take it serious. And if you can't afford it, just say that. And maybe I can work with you on a different package. But I'm not doing any discounts because it's already discounted. Keep listening.
And lie to y'all, I'll sit here and spill it all to you guys. When I went to that therapist, I was completely, utterly honest. I said, this is what I think is wrong with me. I do this wrong. I do that wrong. Da-da-da-da-da. This is what happened to me growing up. I bared it all. You feel me? And because I did that, she was able to give me a proper assessment, a proper analysis. You feel what I'm saying?
Make that change.
I'm proud of myself. I feel very proud to be able to look at a camera and say, I'm not that strong. Like, I'm fighting for my joy. Every day it's a fight. Every day I feel like I'm fighting for my life, because I feel like so many people look up and they're counting on me.
And there it is.
I don't.
And there it is.
That shift. Make that change.
And there it is. And whether you know it or not, she's using this interview as a therapy session. She's using the interview as a therapy session. And it's fine to vent. It's fine to get it off your chest. But the problem is, Angie does not know what to tell her. That's the problem. Focus said, Taraji don't understand that those dark thoughts start as whispers, but get louder over time. Isolation makes it louder. Leaving 4 walls to go to another 4 walls of the country will make it worse. Exactly.
Myself. I feel very proud to be able to look at a camera and say, I'm not that strong. Like, I'm fighting for my joy. Every day it's a fight. Every day I feel like I'm fighting for my life, because I feel like so many people look up and they're counting on me, You know what I mean? I don't feel like no hero.
It's okay, baby. I'm gonna take a second.
I'm not a fucking hero. Like, I'm not perfect. I'm somebody I'm a human. I'm flawed. I'm trying to figure this thing out every day. And it just, for me right now, it just seems like it's getting harder and harder. But is it my perception? Is it what I'm putting on it? Is it, when you get into a dark place, you can compound yourself with darkness, and it's all about your thoughts. And it's like, am I doing this to myself? Is this happening in real time? I'm finally to a place in my life where I just need to just like go, whoa, everybody stop.
Thank
I gotta step off.
Thank God you could do
You know
that.
what I mean?
Yeah, thank God. Can we get a tissue too? I just want to make sure she's okay. Baby, you are. It's crazy.
And for the record, let me make.
All right, guys. So that's this more or less a comparative analysis. How it works and what you should do as it relates to therapy in general. Remember, the talking point that I try to more or less pontificate on today is called reverse ethnocentrism. And reverse ethnocentrism is not more or less to use the talking points from Western therapy, but to use constructs or pieces of Western therapy and tie it in into social trends and urban trends that benefit or more or less help black men and women and families become the better versions of themselves. So guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this show. I'm going to end it on that note. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you to all the people that donated to the channel today. This one was dear to my heart. But in the meantime, guys, we're going to sign off. And men, if you've been emasculated, go check out the book by my fellow therapist and clinician, Edward Fields IV. And if you're struggling with mental health issues, go get that taken care of as well. Be well. Have you been distressed or perplexed? Emasculated. A book written by Edward Fields IV. Everything that needs to be known about men in modern time. Listen, men are not complex. They are misunderstood and unappreciated. Learn what men really feel, think, and desire. Also observe their struggle for acceptance, love, and belonging. A must read for every man in this classic book by Edward Fields IV, Emasculated. Go get your copy now. Are you a victim of brokenness and despair? A broken man is a hopeless man, and a hopeless man is a very dangerous man. Many times, many of you young men that are listening come from homes that are very toxic and very dysfunctional. And because of that, many of you have deferred your power in many ways to the point it's led over into your social life, and many times led over into your relationships. If you guys are dealing with mental health pathologies, conscious and unconscious, come see me at kosherclinician@gmail.com. That's kosherclinician@gmail.com. It's important that you deal with your mental health in order to be a better person for yourself, your loved ones, and also your community. But because mental health is often stigmatized, many of you often suffer in silence. Don't be a victim in silence. And see me once again at kosherclinician@gmail.com. And I need you guys to remember this. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, it ain't right. There are 7 steps that a man must go through in order to become an optimized male. And male mental health is one of those elements that's paramount to the functioning of a man. Be well.
not my fault. You've been lying, saying that I took away your peace. Drowning by yourself, now you wanna blame me. Like you have no options. I ain't take your options. Nah, I'm not the problem. Man, that's on you, yeah. You've been terrorizing me, yeah, I'm always wrong. I knew you lost your mind when you dropped that bomb. Girl, are you crazy? Yeah, you must be crazy. I've been thinking lately it's you. You stole your peace, put it on me, but baby, it's you. Lie like a rat, but take your stuff back, baby, it's you. Whatever, and I would never hear. You've been flexing everywhere. Girl, look in the mirror. Man, you so dirty. Yeah, you look so dirty. You were never worthy. Lately, it's you. You stole your peace, put it on me, but baby, it's you. Lying like a rat, but take your stuff back, baby, it's you. Your parade, shine, you can't share face, yeah. If I was Father Time, then I would change the day, so I never saw your face. Please, what do I have to do to make you? It's you, it's you, it's you, it's you. They tried to count me out, I'ma gon' count me in. Fill up my bank account, now I got something to spend. They tried to count me out, I'ma gon' count me in. Fill up my bank account, now I got something to spend. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I just pull it out and count for nothing when I'm feeling great. Give my baby little more, just to spend it, and I'm always on go, I don't hesitate. Used to always know I make it, yeah. I'll be me until I'm in the grave, yeah. See my record, had to set it straight, yeah. I made to kill like 10 times 10. I got wires coming in, some in euros, some in sec, some in dollars, some in yen. I've been trying to keep my zen, keep my cool. Trying to keep the family fed, get my food. They tried to count me out, I'ma gon' count me in. Fill up my bank account, now I got something to spend. They tried to count me out, I'ma gon' count me in. Fill up my bank account, now I got something to spend. Did it, do it. I did it all, no gimmicks. I did it all, no fibbing. Now I got all these children, now I got all these clones. Now I got all you twinning, now I got all you thinking like all you winning. They tried to count me out, they tried to fill that doubt. They tried to ride my wig, they tried to knock me out. They tried to count my wins, they tried to show my L's. They tried to make me in, they tried, but where they now? Where they? Step in the spot and they stare at me. All of these battles will bear me. I swear that nothing compares to me. Feeling blessed, I won't stress. Beat the odds, you know the rest. They tried to count me out, I'ma gon' count me in. Fill up my bank account, now I got something to spend. They tried to count me out, I'ma gon' count me in. Fill up my bank account, now I got something to spend.